السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم في محاضرة الإعداد لاختبار نهاية البرنامج Exit Exam بعنوان المعرفة الهندسية الأساسية، يقدمها مجموعة من أعضاء هيئة التدريس بكلية الهندسة. وهذه المحاضرة تأتي بالتعاون بين لجنة اختبار نهاية البرنامج الأكاديمي بكلية الهندسة ونادي هندسة الريادة. نبدأ مع الدكتور عمر النقيطي في موضوع الانجينيرينج ديزاين، فليتفضل مشكورا.
طيب، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الأول برحب بحضراتكم. أكيد بعض منكم ممكن يكون حضر معايا دروس IE21 قبل يعني فترة، والبعض يعني لم تتاح لي هذه الفرصة اللي أنا أعرفه، لكن أنا أسعد إن أنا أكون آخر الوجوه اللي أنتم تقبلوها قبل مواجهتكم إن شاء الله للحياة العملية. حقيقة مهمة صعبة إن إحنا نحاول نلخص الانجينيرينج ديزاين يعني موديول في حوالي 20 دقيقة، لكن إن شاء الله نبدأ مع بعض ونشوف يعني ماذا يعني نستطيع أن نفعل. Why engineering design؟ كلنا عارفين إن الانجينيرينج is creating or finding a solution to an existing problem. يعني الانجينيرينج ديزاين هو شكل من أشكال البروبلم سولفينج. واحنا عارفين ان الهندسه دي مهمتها الاساسيه ان هي ازاي تخلي حياه الناس اسهل، ازاي تخلي مكتسبات العلم والاكتشافات التي تمت في خدمه البشر. لذلك without engineers science just a philosophy. لو حبينا نعرف الانجينيرينج ديزاين بشكل بسيط، engineering design is a thoughtful process for generating plans or schemes for devices, systems, or processes that attain given objectives while adhering to specified constraints. عندنا مشكلة، ثم عندنا اقتراح لتصميم. التصميم دوت يراعي بعض constraints specified constraints عشان في الآخر يطلع output عبارة عن device أو system أو process في الآخر يحقق الأوبجيكتيف اللي احنا عاوزينه. طيب، طالما احنا بنتكلم كده where and when do engineering design، هذا المثلث الذهبي اللي حضراتكم ممكن تكونوا تفتكروه جيدا. The client, the user, the designer. الكلاينت هو someone عاوز ينفست في مشروع ما، وبالتالي بيبقى عنده something must be realized. في يوزر، اليوزر ده هو المقصود بهذا الديزاين وهو اللي بيستعمله، هو كمان have their own wishes. ثم عندنا الديزاينر، هو ده اللي بيحاول do something that can be built and that satisfies everybody. طيب، الديزاينر بيعمل ايه؟ المفروض يترانسليت الكلاينتس wishes الى لغه التصميم. لغه التصميم يعني يحولها الى words, pictures, numbers, rules, formulas, properties في الاخر خالص عشان يحصل على موديل او يانلايز او يتست او يevaluate او optimize and finally document this design. طالما في كلاينت وفي ديزاينر في يوزر، فبالتالي ده احنا بنسميهم كاستمرز، وبالتالي الكاستمرز دول ليهم نيد. النيدز للكاستمرز ممكن نقدر نجنرالايز هذه النيدز في ثلاث اشياء: expected requirements, revealed requirements، ثم عندنا exciting requirements. طيب، ايه هي الاكسبكتد requirements؟ من اسمها كده هي basic characteristics that customer assume are present. من غيرها انا مش معقول هشتري سياره وهقول ان واو انا لقيت في السياره تايرز، مش معقوله، دي شيء expected. الريفيلد requirements هي characteristics that customer discuss when describing the characteristics that would improve a product or service. صحيح موجودة ال expected features، ال expected requirements، لكن بأي جودة؟ موجودة بأي جودة؟ ال exciting requirements هي أشياء عادة لما بيلاقيها الكاستمر بيقول عليها واو، لأنه ما كانش متوقع أصلا اللي هي موجودة، وطول ما هي موجودة يعني بتثير سعادته أكثر. لو حبينا نقول تأثير الريكوايرمنت تايب على الكاستمر ساتسفاكشن في حالة لو هو مش موجود أو موجود أو موجود بكثرة، فالاكسبكتد ريكوايرمنت زي ما افتكرنا أو نفتكر لو هي not present فهيبقى في dissatisfaction طبيعي، لو هي present unaware لان هي ده المفروض اللي كان يحصل. لو كان موجود زياده منها برضه نو افكت لان ده المفروض يكون موجود. الريفيلد فيتشرز او ريكوايرمنتس لو مش موجوده هيبقى فيه dissatisfaction عالي. صحيح الاير كونديشن موجود لكن كفاءته سيئه. لو هي موجوده هيبقى فيه satisfaction اكيد. لو هي موجوده وبقدرات اكبر يبقى فيه increased satisfaction. الاكسايتنج فيتشرز لو هي مش موجوده انا اوير لان انا مش متوقع اصلا الاقيها، لكن لو كانت موجوده هيبقى فيه satisfaction. لو موجوده بكثره هيبقى اكيد فيه increased satisfaction. الانجينيرنج ديزاين بروبلمز بشكل عام هي تشالنج. ليه؟ لان في حاجتين مهمين جدا. اول حاجه الكاركترستيك للانجينيرنج ديزاين اللي هي الستراكشر. يعني ما فيش مثال اقدر اعمل عليه، ما فيش فورمولا اقدر اطبق فيها فاحصل على التصميم الهندسي، وبالتالي كل تصميم له معاناته. وهي اوبن اندد لان ما فيش حل وحيد. انا النهارده بضع حل، غدا حد تاني هيضع حل اخر، وهكذا. وبالتالي لو حبينا نحط موديل للديزاين بروسيس هلاقي دايما في طريقين بنمشي فيهم. اما نعمل ديسكريبتيف موديل، واقصد هنا بالديسكريبتيف اللي انا هوصف الاليمنتس عناصر التصميم، وصف مبدئي وصف عام. والجزء الثاني اللي هو البريسكريبتيف موديل، وان انا فيها ديسكرايب او بريسكرايب ايه الاشياء اللي must be done during the design process، وده يبقى فيه شيء من التفصيل الشديد. لو اخذنا امثله للديسكريبتيف موديل اكزامبلز هنلاقي ان السمبل موديلز هقول انا هجنريت الديزاين، هايفالويت، ثم اي كوميونيكيت عشان اوصله واعمل دوكيومنتيشن وخلافه. او مثلا هكونسيف، تمام، هحدد المشكله ثم هعمل الديزاين ثم هامبلمنت هذا الديزاين. ممكن موديلز ثانيه استخدم تبقى هيورستيك بيزد زي اللي احنا درسناه في الاي اي 201، البروبلم سولفنج هيورستيك بالنقاط الخمسه بتوعه: define, generate, decide, implement, evaluate. واعتقد ان دي صوره شهيره احنا كلنا كنا متعودين عليها. دي الفايف ستيبس اوف ذا بروبلم سولفنج هيورستيك. طيب لو حبينا نمشي مع هذا الموديل اللي هو الديسكريبتيف موديل ونشوف واحد من ضمن الموديلز اللي احنا درسناها مع بعض اللي هي الفايف بوينت استراتيجي هيورستيك او الماك ماستر 5 بوينت استراتيجي هيورستيك، بيبدا باول خطوه اللي هي البروبلم ديفينيشن. واحنا عارفين عشان نعمل بروبلم ديفينيشن وي شود جاذر انفورميشن. هنجيب الانفورميشن دي منين؟ فهنستفاد من الفيرست فور ستيبس اللي بينصحنا بيها البروبلم سولفر، زي اللي هي collect and analyze information and data, talk with people familiar with the problem, if at all possible view the problem first hand and confirm all findings. بعد ما جمعت المعلومات هيبقى عندي مجموعة من ال perceived problem statements. المفروض اللي أنا أعرضها على ال problem definition techniques حتى أصيغ ال final problem definition. عندنا في 4 طرق: critical thinking, ال present state, desired state and Dunker diagram, statement restatement and indicative problem analysis. اللي احنا درسناهم مع بعض، درسنا مثلا ال present state, desired state and Dunker diagram. بنقول ايه هي البريزنت ستيت؟ هي الوضع الحالي اللي انا فيه اللي هو وصفي للمشكله. فهعمل وصف describing the situation، ثم بعد كده هكتب جمله السنتنس ديت بتديسكرايب البريزنت ستيت اللي انا موجود فيه. وهكتب جمله ثانيه بتديسكرايب الديزايرد ستيت اللي انا عاوز اروح لها او اريد ان اكون فيها او اطمح ان انا اذهب اليها بعد ما تتحل المشكله. فبالتالي هتبقى الفجوه اللي ما بينهم ديت هيملاها مين؟ هيبقى يملاها الدانكر دياجرام. هو ده البريدج اللي بيوصل البريزنت ستيت that leads to the desired state. طيب الدانكر دياجرام نفتكره مع بعض كان عامل ازاي؟ كان عندنا 3 levels of solutions: general solution, functional solution and specific solution. الجنرال سوليوشن كان عندنا فيه 2 sides. الليفت سايد achieve desired state مهما كان كلفني ده من مال او وقت او مجهود، والجزء الثاني اوكي not to achieve desired state لكن نفذ وحقق المطلوب وحل المشكله لكن بطريقه more creative وتستخدم فيها اقل مجهود اقل وقت اقل تكلفه. ثم بعد كده في عندنا الفانكشنال سوليوشن دي الباث بتاعت الحل، والسبيسيفيك سوليوشن اللي هي الحلول النهائيه اللي انا هعملها. طيب بعد ما اعمل الدانكر دياجرام اكيد هصل الى حل عاده بيبقى من الرايت هاند سايد، والحل دوت بعد ما اوصل له هعمل ايه؟ هعيد تعريف المشكله مره ثانيه. لذلك بنسال بنقول why Dunker diagram considered a problem definition technique. صياغتك للمشكله او عمل دانكر دياجرام دي في حد ذاته ده كرييتيف اكتيفيتي، لكن بعد ما تعمل كده finally you can rewrite the original problem statement in light of this compromising solution. السوليوشن الكرييتيف اللي انت حصلت عليه ممكن يخليك تعيد تاني في صياغه وتعريف المشكله مره تانيه، وبالتالي هو ده اللي بيخلي الدانكر دياجرام considered an amazing problem definition technique. طيب كان في تكنيك اخر اللي هو ستيتمنت ريستيتمنت، واحنا بنبقى في فازي مس مش عارفين يعني نضع تعريف جيد للمشكله، فبنحط مجموعه من البرسيفد بروبلمز هنطبق عليهم مجموعه من التريجرز او الكونسترينتس، بنعمل بيهم ريلاكسنج او ونعمل ريستيتمنت مره ثانيه، او ميك اوبوزيت ستيتمنت ونعمل ريستيتمنت للبرسيفد بروبلم مره ثانيه، ونقعد نعمل ده باكثر من نوع من انواع التريجرز لغايه في الاخر خالص ستيتنج ذا فاينل بروبلم. طبعا دي انواع التريجرز مش هنقدر ان احنا نتكلم عنها كلها. النوع التكنيك الثالث من البروبلم ديفينيشن تكنيكس اللي هو البروبلم اناليسيز، اللي هو تبع عائله الكليتي ابروتش اللي هي السيتويشن ابريزل والبروبلم اناليسيز، الديسيشن اناليسيز، البوتنشال بروبلم اناليسيز. هنتكلم عن الباقي بعدين، لكن هنتكلم دلوقتي عن البروبلم اناليسيز. طيب البروبلم اناليسيس كان في ايه؟ لو نفتكر الفور دايمنشنز اللي بتحدد الكيتي بروبلم اناليسيس، الوات والوير والوين والاكستنت، وات از وات ازنت، وايه الديستنكشن بين ذيم، وايه الكوز. لو قدرت ان انا املى هذا الجدول بشكل مناسب للمشكله، ثق تماما ان انت هتقدر تحط ليها تعريف حقيقي. طيب بعد ما نستعمل كل التكنيكس للبروبلم ديفينيشن تكنيك، after you stated the problem be sure that A واحد it penetrates the heart of the problem وتجيب الريل كوز لهذه البروبلم. اثنين it is specific and obvious. ثلاثة it didn't show biases، ما يبقاش فيه أي نوع من البايسنج فيها. و it is comprehensive and identifies all sides of problems، ما بتكونش تعرف جزء من المشكلة وتترك جزء الجزء الآخر. طيب ننقل للمرحله الثانيه من البروبلم سولفينج هيورستيك للجنريتنج سوليوشنز، ودي كنا فيها بنستخدم مينلي البرين ستورمينج تكنيكس، الفري اسوسيشن سواء كان individual brainstorming او جروب brainstorming، ونراعي ان احنا no negative comments during group brainstorming، اللاترال ثينكينج وده يبقى فيه حلول متعدده لهذه المشكله، وكان التكنيك المستخدم الراندوم ستيميوليشن، والفيرتيكال ثينكينج واللي احنا نبني على الحلول قديمه ونعمل يعني نحصل على حلول جديده. بهذا بنستخدم فيه التكنيك السكامبر وال77 كاردز ديزاين هيورستكس. ثم بعد كده المرحله الثالثه احنا عندنا بقينا في حلول كثيره موجوده بعد عرفنا المشكله ولدنا حلول كثيره بالبرين ستورمينج بانواعه، لابد ان احنا نختار حل وحيد منهم نطبقه، ودي تيجي دور deciding the course of action والتكنيك الشهير الكي تي دي اي تيبل. هذا التيبل زي ما انتم شايفين بعرف مجموعه من الكونسترينتس بسميها الماستس، ومجموعه من الديزايرز بسميها الوانتس، بعرض الالترناتيفز على الماستس. لو اي واحد مش محقق اي ماست بيبقى نيجلكتد، والوانتس مع المتبقي بحصل منهم على البيست او البيجست سكور، يبقى هو ده البيست سوليوشن. تراعي دايما وانت بتعمل الكي تي دي اي في الماستس زي ما قلنا اللي هي mandatory to achieve a successful solution it should be واحد measurable، لابد تكون قابله للقياس ما تبقاش ambiguous كده. تاني حاجه realistic، وتراعي دايما ان الكونسترينتس neither too restrictive nor too permissive. اما في الوانتس وزي ما قلنا دي desirable but not mandatory، ان هي برضه تكون measurable، وان هي something you desire but not absolute. الخطوه الرابعه اللي هي الامبلمنت سوليوشن، انا اخترت خلاص البيست سوليوشن، يعني احاول ان انا اطبق وانفذ هذا الحل. بدايه لازم عشان اعمل امبلمنت لازم اخد الاول الابروفل من الاورجنايزيشن اللي انا شغال فيها او المكان اللي انا فيه. عشان اخد الابروفل I should sell my idea and making the case for change. طيب دي بعض النصائح بنسميها السمبل بروسيس تو ميك ذا كيس اوف تشينج. اول حاجه هنبقى في 6 نقاط هنراعيهم. هعمل ارتكوليشن للتشينج وايه هو وازاي وليه احنا محتاجين هذا التشينج. ثم بعد كده احضر رؤيه واوتلاين ازاي هيكون حالنا بعد التشينج ده ما يحصل، ثم identify السكيلز needed لهذا التشينج، وبعد كده رابعا define الانسنتيفز for change وايه البنفيت اللي هيعود على الاورجنايزيشن بعد التشينج ده ما يكون، والخامس identify الريسورسز وهل احنا فعلا عندنا الريسورسز ديت اللي نقدر ننفذ بيها هذا التشينج، ثم اخر حاجه يبقى عندي اكشن بلان عباره عن تايم تيبلز وجانت تشارت وخلافه. اي واحد من دول هيكون ناقص انا لن احصل على كيس اوف تشينج، انا كده هحصل على حاجه اخرى. بعد ما اخد الابروفال هعمل بلاننج بينقسم دائما لثلاث خطوات. السيتويشن، اعمل سيتويشن ابريزل عشان اشوف ايه التاسكس والمهام اللي عندي، ثم اشوف الريسورس الوكيشن سواء كان التايم او البيرسونيل او الماني. بستخدم التكنيكس زي ما انتم شايفين في التايم الجانت والكريتيكال باث تشارتس، والبيرسونيل الديبلويمنت تشارتس عن حدد المسؤوليه، والماني البادجت او الكوست استيميشن. ثم بعد كده بعمل البوتنشال بروبلم اناليسيز عشان اتجنب الامبلمنتيشن بيت فيلز في المستقبل. ودي بعض الامثله من الجانت تشارت، هو علاقه ما بين التاسك والتايم، والديبلويمنت شارت علاقه بين التاسك والريسبونسبلز، والكريتيكال باث مانجمنت انا بحاول اشوف الكريتيكال باث اللي ممكن يعوقني عن استكمال المشروع، او لو في اي ديلي حصل في اي كومبوننتس من على هذا الباث ممكن يعمل لي فعلا ديلي في المشروع كله. وده مثال للبادجت بمكوناتها والكوست استيميشن. ثم اخر حاجه كان الايفالويشن اوف ذا فاينل ديسيشن، وفي بساتسفاي الاوبجكتيفز طبعا اللي انا بعمل الفكره دي وانفذها باستخدام الايفالويشن تشيك ليست، براعي الايثيكال كونسيدريشنز، وفي اكثر من موديل لهذا الموضوع، الفور كلاسيكال فيرتشوز والايثكس تشيك ليست والفايف بيز، ثم السيفتي كونسيدريشنز. بهذا الشكل ده ريكاب كده للموضوع كله. ممكن لو انت بتراجع المحاضره تقدر تشوف كل الخطوات بالتكنيكس والسكيلز اللي انت حصلت عليها. لغايه هنا احنا اتكلمنا على الديسكريبتيف موديل، وده تقريبا كل اللي انت درسته في الاي اي 201. لو حبينا نتكلم على البريسكريبتيف موديل، واللي احنا زي ما قلنا ده بريسكرايب وات ماست بي دون during design process بشكل اكثر تفصيلا، هنشوف ان البريسكريبتيف موديل اكزامبل اللي انتوا درستوه هو الفايف ستيج بريسكريبتيف موديل اوف ديزاين بروسيس. البروبلم ديفينيشن مكوناته خمسه، الكونسبشوال ديزاين، ثم البريليمينري ديزاين، الديتيلد ديزاين، ثم الديزاين كوميونيكيشن. ده الشكل المبسط ليه. طبعا هو كان موجود في التكست بوك بهذا الشكل، هو في اكثر يعني تعقيدا، بمعنى ان ده الموديول وليه انبوت وليه اوتبوت، كل واحد من الخمسه اللي انا اتكلمت عليهم، وطبعا كل واحد منهم كان ليه التزامات زي ما حضراتكم درستوا في الاي اي 1 بتحدد ايه هو الانبوت بالظبط، ايه التاسكس اللي هتعملها في كل خطوه من الخطوات، ايه الاوتبوتس اللي هي يعني اكسبكتد اللي هي تكون بشكل تفصيلي، وهكذا بقى في كل خطوه. كان البروبلم ديفينيشن الاول، ثم الكونسبشوال ديزاين، ثم بعد كده البريليمينري ديزاين، ثم الديتيلد ديزاين، واخر حاجه الكوميونيكيشن، والمقصود بيها ان انا document the final design, description للdesign process, drawings and design details، ثم fabrication specifications عشان التصنيع بعد كده. هعرف مع بعض some basic vocabulary للengineering design، زي مثلا design objective، ده feature or behavior that we wish the design to have or exhibit. اكيد في objective اللي بيخليني انا اعمل الديزاين دوت، فايه هو لابد ان انا اعرفه. في ديزاين constraints زي ما شفنا قبل كده، دي a limit or restriction of the features or behaviors of the design. الديزاين ده لازم يراعي some constraints، سواء environmental constraints, the economical constraints and so on. A proposed design is unacceptable if these limits are violated. أكيد الفيوليشن لهذه limits لو حصل الديزاين ده لا يقبل، ويرجى منك إعادة يعني تصميمه مرة أخرى أو إصلاح هذا الفيوليشن أو تصحيح هذا الفيوليشن. الفانكشنز دي things a design device or system is supposed to do. إيه هي وظيفة هذا الديزاين؟ بيعمل إيه؟ ويعني تحديدا الانجينيرنج فانكشنز دي ممكن تكون كتير، لابد ان انا اعرف الوظيفه الاساسيه لهذا المشروع. طيب المينز هي الواي او الميثود اللي انا هحقق بيها الفانكشن اللي انا اتكلمت عنها قبل كده. تمام؟ يعني مثلا بقول فور اكزامبل فريكشن is a means of fulfilling a function of applying a braking force. لو انا عاوز ابلاي البريكنج فورس، ايه المين كده اللي انا احسب الفريكشن اللي موجود. طيب الفورم هو ده الشيب او الستراكشر اللي اوت اللي هيبقى عليه المشروع فين في الاخر. طيب لو انا حبيت ان انا اقيس الصوت كده واضح يا شباب؟
Yeah, it's clear now. Fine.
طيب اوكي. لو احنا بنتكلم على measuring the success of an engineering design، بنتكلم على المتركس، هي standard of measurements ها. In the context of engineering design the scale أو rulers ها بقدر أميجر عليها ال degree of objectives are achieved. يعني ال objectives اللي أنا محددها لهذا المشروع achieved بدرجة قد إيه، بحدد وبضع متركس طبعا لكل مشروع على حدة على حسب أحواله، بقيس بيها هذا الإيه، هذا السكسس. السبيسيفيكيشنز ودي من اسمها دي مواصفات يعني precise descriptions of the properties of the object being designed. فاحدد انا السبيسيفيكيشنز دي عاده بتكون values او procedures او performance بيدخل فيها طبعا الارقام والميثودز وخلافه. الديزاين مانجمنت تولز. طيب انا هدير الديزاين ازاي؟ يعني عمليه الديزاين نفسها انا هديرها ازاي؟ في اللي هو ما يسمى ب 3S موديل، ده يعني شهير في هذا الامر. البروجكت مانجر لازم يراعي هذه الدايمنشنز وهذه الابعاد، السكوب، السبندنج، السكيدول. طب نقصد ايه بكل واحد؟ نقصد بالسكوب تولز اللي هي clear understanding of what team must accomplish particularly in terms of deliverables. ابقى فاهم التيم هو ايه السكوب اللي انا هشتغل فيه، ايه اللي انا هقدمه في الاخر. ثم السكيدول تولز واقصد بيها التايم فريم within which the project must be completed. والسبندنج تولز انا عندي ايه من المان او الماتيريال او الماني، ايه الليميتس اللي عندي من الريسورسز، هذه الريسورسز. وبالتالي كل واحد منهم انا هيبقى ليه بعض التكنيكس وبعض المهارات اللي انا بستخدمها عشان احققه. فمثلا السكوب تولز، التيم تشارتر، الورك بريك داون ستراكشر، اللينير ريسبونسابيلتي تشارت، ده شبيه كده بالديبلويمنت شارت اللي احنا قلناه في الماك ماستر 5 بوينت استراتيجي هيورستيك. السكيدول تولز، التيم كالندر، الاكتيفيتي نتورك، ودي شبيهه بالكريتيكال باث تشارت. والجانت تشارت طبعا شبيه بالثاني. السبندنج تولز، المان والماتيريال البادجت، ودي بنعمل فيها كوست استيميشن زي ما شفنا قبل كده. التيم تشارتر هو اجريمنت، الاجريمنت ده بيتعمل ما بين التيم وبين الستيك هولدرز عشان اضمن فيه البروجكت ريكوايرمنتس، الكونستيتيوتس بروجكت سكسس، الليميتس، احط الجولز، الرولز، الريسورسز، الديليفرابلز، الميجر سكيدول بوينتس، كأن ده عقد بعمله بيني وبين الرعاة لهذا المشروع عشان نحدد مسؤوليات ونحدد ايه نقطة البداية والنهاية. عشان كده حتى ممكن يستخدم later in case of conflict، لو حصل في conflict بقدر بستخدم الشارتر دوت في هذا الامر، لان كل شيء بيبقى واضح فيه، وعادة من صفحة او صفحتين بتكتب في بداية المشروع. الورك الورك بريك داون ستراكشر، ده hierarchical decomposition of all the tasks that must be performed to complete the project. بديفاين الريليشن للفاينل ديليفربل مع السب ديليفربلز in turn and their relationship work package. وشكل من اشكاله بيبقى بهذا الشكل، بحدد فيه كل النقاط من البدايه الى النهايه زي تري كده للمهام. اللينير ريسبونسابيلتي تشارت او ال ار سي، وده زي ما قلت لكم ده شبيه بالديبلويمنت شارت، بيحدد العلاقه ما بين التاسك وما بين الريسبونسبلز، بس زياده بحدد هو ده ريسبونسبل ولا سبورتس ولا اسيست اند سو اون، نوع الايه الريسبونسابيلتي. التيم كالندر، ودي كالندر عاديه بحط فيها الاشياء المواعيد والليميتس والتايم فريم اللي بتكلم عليه، بحيث يبقى في تنبيه لينا عند ما يحين وقت حاجه منها. وبعدين في الاخر خالص الجانت تشارت اللي زي ما شرحنا مثالي قبل كده. الاكتيفيتي نتورك احنا قلنا ده شبيه بالكريتيكال باث مانجمنت لكن بصوره ادق، وبتتعمل بشكل اكثر تفصيلا عشان نحدد فعلا الكريتيكال باث فين هو بطريقه اناليتيكال. وعاده الجانت تشارت والاكتيفيتي نتورك اكزامبلز دي بيستخدموا في السوفت وير اللي بتنظم عمليه البروجكت مانجمنت، ومفيش ابدا مدير مشروع بيستغنى عن الطريقتين دول. والبروبوزد بادجت اكزامبل زي ما احنا خدناه قبل كده بهذا الشكل. ارجو ان انا اكون يعني ما اثقلتش عليكم. دي الريفرنس اللي استخدمت هي من واقع التكست بوكس اللي جت من الاي 21 و 22 ومن الليكتشر نوتس. يعني سعدت ان انا اكون من اواخر الناس اللي يعني هتسمعوها او تاخدوا منها شيء في حياتكم الجامعيه، وان شاء الله تكون حياتكم العمليه يعني طيبه ومثمره، ونسمع عنكم دايما كل خير. شكرا جزيلا. مش عارف هل لو في وقت الاسئله ولا مش هيبقى فيه، لكن اتفضل يعني انا خلصت.
الله يعطيك العافيه دكتور عمر على هذه المعلومات وعلى هذا الجهد، جهد يبذل فيشكر، الله يعطيك العافيه. وعلى موضوع الاسئله لو نقدر نخليها نهايه اللهم صل على محمد، نهايه اللقاء او نهايه المحاضره يكون افضل، لانه لسه في 3-4 دكاتره وكل واحد نفس الوقت، فانت عارف الامور هذه. الله يعطيك العافيه دكتور.
الله يعينك.
والحين ننتقل الى موضوع البروبابيلتي اند statistics with دكتور مصطفى يلمز.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Okay, السلام عليكم for everybody here. So I can explain in English, right?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Tamam. So let me share my slides here. The screen. Yes, I'm now sharing. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Very
Okay.
clear.
It is clear, right? Everybody can see my screen, right?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Dear students, due to the time limitations, I need to, talk about the general outlines of the topics that are allocated for me. So I will try my best to finish everything within 20 minutes, inshallah. And now my topics are the sample space and events, conditional probability, Chebyshev Theorem, and discrete probability distribution. And I want to explain these topics in the order in which they appear in the original notebook, the original book. So let me first talk about the sample space, what sample space and events are. So assume that you toss a die or dice, what are the possible outcomes? So as everybody knows, there are 6 outcomes when we toss a die or dice. So this is called to be the sample space. For example, you are flipping a coin. What are the possible, outcomes? Either the head will come or tail will come. So in that case, the sample space is 2. And each member in the sample space is called to be sample points. Now, for example, consider you want to find a probability of having greater than 4 from the thrown die. Which possible outcomes can be greater than 4? For example, this is events, the event in the thing that is asked in the question. So here the event is the thing, which shows the possibility of getting 2 outcomes greater than 4, namely 5 and 6. So the sample space, sample point, and event can be defined as following. Sample space is the set of all possible outcomes of a statistical experiment. So in the meantime, let me activate the mouse pointer. So, and is represented by the symbol S. For example, as you can see, each one is the sample point, and the sample space is the space in which we can see all the sample points. Sample point, each outcome in the sample space. How many outcomes are there in the sample space? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 outcomes in the sample space, and each outcome is also called to be sample point. Also, what is event? Event is a subset of a sample space. As you remember from the previous example, the event is the numbers 5 and 6. The probability of getting 5 and 6 were asked in the previous question. So, as I said you before, the thing that is asked in the question is generally event, but conceptually, event is the subset of the sample space. In this question, in this example, subset is 5 and 6. This is the, the previous question. As you can see, regarding the probability for each of them, it's very easy to know. Each probability for each sample point is 1/6, and the total probability is 6/6. And as you know, the total probability should equal to 1. And the probability of getting the phase up 5 and 6 is 2/6. 1/6 plus 1/6 equals to 2/6. This is the probability of the event, as you can see. The sample space in this experiment can be described in the following format. This is S of the sample space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's shown by the curly parentheses. And each member or each sample point should be shown within the parentheses. Sample spaces with a large or infinite number of sample points are best described by a statement or a rule method. Let me give some examples for describing the sample space. For example, you are flipping a coin. What's the sample space? It will head and tail. There are 2 outcomes. Or consider the experiment of tossing a dice. As you know, in the previous question, the sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we are only interested in whether the number is even or odd, in this time we are required to describe the sample space. Sample space is even odd because there are either even or odd numbers on the face of the die. The possible outcomes of an experiment are the set of the cities in the world with a population over 1 million. Let us describe the sample space. Yani X is such that X is a city of a population over 1 million. So these are, the examples for describing the sample space. Can you listen me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. No one is speaking. Sometimes I'm thinking that I lost connection.
No, you're not alone. We're with you. Don't worry.
Okay. So the second topic is the conditional probability. In the conditional probability, let's focus on 2 events, events A and B within the sample space. The probability of an event B occurring when it is known that event A has occurred is called a conditional probability. In the conditional probability, there should be 2 events. at least 2 events, and 1 event occurs depending on the occurrence of the second event. The conditional probability of B given A, denoted by the, shown by the symbol, probability B given A is defined by probability A intersection B over probability A. As it's also shown by the Venn diagram, we are looking for the probability B given A. Here, the B is the unconditioned event, and the A is the conditioned event. First, the event A should occur, and depending on the occurrence of the event A, the event B will occur. In this case, we are required to calculate the probability of the event B after occurrence of event A. This is conceptually called to be the conditional probability, as the name suggests. Let's see a very basic example. The following sample space is the population of adults in a small town who completed the requirements for a college degree. It is categorized according to gender and employment status. Everything is tabulated here, brothers. And there are employed and unemployed population, and male and females. And the total numbers are also given in the table. So we are required to find the probability of selecting a male, given that he is employed. This is a typical conditional probability, question. Why? Because first the first event should be occurred, and with the condition of the the employment occurred, what is the probability of the selection of the male? So we know our classical, the equation, the probability M given E. M is the M of male, and E is the E of the employment. M given E equals to probability M intersection E over probability E. What's probability M intersection E? M intersection E, yani male intersected with employed, is 460. The probability of selection of the male is 460 over 900. The probability of M intersection E. Regarding the probability of E and the probability of employment, the total number is given as 600 in the table. It's very easy also to calculate. And also the probability of, selecting the employed is 600 over 900. When we put all two calculations in the equation, we are finding the probability of selecting of male given is employed is 460 over 600. This is the classical example for conditional probability. The third topic is the Chebyshev Theorem. Dear students, and you can ask me when you do not understand anything. Because time is very limited, and I have to explain the topics with very general outlines. So what is Chebyshev theorem and what is it used? The theorem is used to find the probability of the random variable to be within K number of standard deviation. So let me repeat again. It is used to find the probability of the random variable X to be within the k number of standard deviations. The probability is calculated by using the equation 1 minus 1 over k square. 1 minus 1 over k square. And the k is the number of the standard deviation. The probability that any random variable x will be assumed as a value within k standard deviations of the mean is at least 1 minus 1 over k square. And that is the random variable x is between mean plus, the k multiplied with standard deviation and mu minus mean minus k multiplied with, standard deviation. So, for example, when k is given as 2 in the question, so let's put 2 in place of k, and the result is 3 over 4. What does it mean? The random variable x has the probability of at least 75%, 3 over 4, yani 0.75 or 75% of falling within k number of standard deviations. What's k here? K is 2, within 2 standard deviations of the mean. For example, if we take k as 3, in this time, let's put 3 in place of k. In this time, the result of the equation is 8 over 9. And let's say the probability is around 0.9, yeah, 90% around. So how we can comment that? The random variable, that is x, has a probability of at least 90% within 3 standard deviations of the mean from either right to the right and to the left. The fourth topic is the discrete probability distribution. First of all, we should discriminate between the discrete probability and continuous probability distributions. Discrete probability distributions are used to define the countable data. Discrete probability distributions are based on countable data, but continuous probability distributions are based on uncountable data. In other words, measurable data. But here we will just focus on the discrete probability distributions. Binomial distribution is the most characteristic discrete probability distribution. There are, of course, other distributions under the title of discrete probability distribution. Let's see one by one. Let's talk about binomial distribution. In order for us to decide if this distribution is binomial or not, we should know about the Bernoulli process. If the event in the question is complied with the Bernoulli process, in this time, we should use the binomial distribution to select binomial distribution to solve the problem. For example, there is an experiment and we are flipping a biased coin. This is the coin. This is not normal coin. Normal coin, there are 2 outcomes and each outcome will have the equal probability. That is 1 over 2. But here This is, let's say this is a biased coin, and the probability of getting head is 1/4, and the probability of getting tail is 3/4. There is no other outcome. Let's say we are flipping this coin n times. So in order for us to talk about the Bernoulli process, we should seek for 4 properties to be provided at the same time. First, property 1. The repeated trials should be observed. Flipping a biased coin is a good example for repeated trials because each trial is repeated. Property 2, there should be 2 outcomes. There is no any other outcome here. Either you will get head or tail. Or this can be classified as success or failure. Property 3 is the probability of success or failure remains constant for every trial. As really we can see from the picture, after each flipping, the probability will never change. In the first flipping, the probability of getting head is 1/4. The second one is still 1/4. Third one, 1/4. The nth one is also 1/4. And this is also the case for the probability of tail. And that probability of change, tail, will never change after each trial. This is the third property. The fourth property is that the trials are independent of each other. What does it mean? The probability of each trial will not affect the probability of the second trial, and the probability, the trial 2 will also not affect the probability of the third trial, and it goes like that until the nth trial. If we see that these 4 properties are provided at the same time, we can say that this distribution is the binomial distribution. Binomial experiment, sorry. If we see that the Bernoulli experiment is provided, we can decide that this is binomial distribution. And this is also shown by the 3 diagram, success or failure. Let's say we have 3 trials. After each trials, we will have 2 specific outcomes. Okay, and each trial can be repeated. Let's look for the property 2. We will get either, defective or non-defective, or head or tail, or sick or healthy. And yeah, as long as we will have 2 outcomes, we can talk about the Bernoulli process. And also, what was the third property of the Bernoulli process? The probability of success or failure remains constant for every trial. And also the property 4 also is provided. The trials are independent of each other. So we can see the formula of the binomial experiment, the binomial distribution. The components of binomial distribution is the random variables n and p. N is the number of selection. P is the P of the probability of success or failure, and we are using this equation. Multinomial distribution is also a kind of binomial distribution, but in this distribution we will have more than 2 possible outcomes. In this case, we can talk about the multinomial distribution, and we solve our problems by using the equation here by based on the multinomial distribution. This is the the problem specific for the multinomial distribution, as you can see. And if the given trial can result in k outcomes, as you can see, the third outcomes, we can talk about the multinomial distribution. And regarding the hypergeometric distribution, both distributions are similar but differs in terms of dependency. In binomial distribution, the trials are independent to each other, but in hypergeometric distribution, trials are dependent. After each selection, the probability is changing in the hypergeometric distribution. So we are using also the hypergeometric distribution based on the combination. So the hypergeometric distribution can be calculated by using this formula. Yani the h of the hypergeometry as the components, x is the random variable, n is the total population, small capital N is the total population, small n is the number of selection, and k is labeled as success or failure. Multivariate hypergeometric distribution, if we can partition the total population of number into some sets, in this time we are talking about multivariate hypergeometric distribution. As you can see in this example, the total population is 10, but is divided into two, sets, 3, 4, and 3, in total 10. If we are making such partition, and if the probability of the probability of outcome is changing after each selection, in this time we are talking about the multivariate hypergeometric distribution. So there is also negative binomial distribution. What's the difference between the normal binomial and negative binomial distribution? In the negative binomial is similar to the binomial process, with the exception that the trials will be repeated until a fixed number of success occur. Therefore, instead of calculation of the probability of x successes in n trials, in negative binomial distribution, we are interested in the probability of the kth success occurs on the x trial. If in the question we see the superlative expressions like second, third, fifth, 10th, in this time we should understand that we need to use the negative binomial distribution. And also the very similar to the normal binomial distribution. The formula of negative binomial distribution can be shown as seen. The x minus 1 choose k minus 1 multiply with p over k multiply with k over x minus k. And geometric distribution is a special case of the negative binomial distribution. When k is given as 1 in the question, in this time we can talk about the geometric distribution. To repeat, the geometric distribution is the special case of the negative binomial distribution. And the formula of the geometric distribution can be seen as shown in this PowerPoint slide page. P multiplied with Q power x minus 1, and we are using this equation to make calculation based on geometric distribution. And the last PowerPoint slide, Poisson distribution. This is the last distribution that we should consider in the discrete probability distributions. To repeat, the discrete probability distributions are for the data that are countable. Okay, so Poisson distribution, we can use the Poisson distribution in our daily life if we are talking about the number of errors on a given page, or arrivals to a store in an hour, or number of microorganisms in a cell culture, or number of phone calls in an hour. In this time, we are talking about the Poisson experiments. In Poisson experiments, the random variable x is the number of outcomes occurring during a given time interval, or in a specified region. If we see in the question, there is a time interval or there is a specified region. In this time, we should think also about the Poisson distribution. Poisson distribution, in the Poisson distribution process, there are some properties. In the first property, the number of outcomes occurring in one time interval or specified region of space is independent of the number that occur in any other disjoint time interval or region. This is also called to be the memoryless function. Lot, for example, lot of accidents on Monday doesn't mean Tuesday will have fewer, higher, or same number of accidents. This shows that each events are independent of each other. The second property, the probability that a single outcome will occur during a very short time interval or in a small region is proportional to the length of the time interval or the size of the region. As you can see from the picture, the probability x equals to 1 in time interval 2 is greater than 1 and 3. As you can see, look at it, they are evaluated based on the magnitude of the time intervals. The property 3, the probability that more than one outcome will occur in such a short time interval or fall in such a small region is negligible. If it's, as you can see, very limited, very small time interval, and we can consider the probability as 0. And the formula of the Poisson distribution can be shown as seen. The probability equals to, the components are the random variable x and lambda t. The probability distribution of Poisson random variable x representing the number of outcomes occurring in a given time interval or specified region is denoted by this formula. E power minus lambda t multiplied with lambda t power x over x factorial. As you know, the x is the random variable. We can use also the table A2 in order to make the Poisson probability sums for selected values of lambda t ranging from 0.1 to 18. So to give and to summarize all the things, we have binomial distribution, hypergeometric distribution, negative binomial distribution, and geometric distribution, as well as Poisson distributions. These are the discrete probability distributions. Okay, thank you for listening to me, and I'm waiting for if you have any question.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Any question?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you have any question?
Not really. I just want to thank you for this very detailed presentation and lecture. And as I think the brothers mentioned, these lectures are going to be uploaded onto YouTube, and perhaps students who did not attend, they could watch them and benefit, inshallah.
You are right, but the students here are know the chance to record the meeting, so they can share this meeting with their friends who couldn't attend today session.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Mustafa, about
Yeah.
this great presentation.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
اوكي، والان ننتقل لموضوع technical communication skills with دكتور محمود سلامة. اسمعني دكتور محمود؟
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Doctor.
Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام.
ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
So you can hear me now, gentlemen.
Yes, Doctor. You can start if you
Yeah.
want to.
So you allow me to share my PowerPoint, please?
You can share, Doctor. Try this.
Mhm. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank the gentlemen, the doctors, for their very fruitful presentations. And in fact, they provided us with the meat. And Dr. Tifuti and me are going to provide you the desserts and the fruit salad, maybe. Okay, can you hear me, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
yes,
can hear you,
Doctor.
but why are the slides small? Is it on my screen only, or is it everybody? The slides are kind of small. Can you enlarge them, Doctor?
Yeah, yeah, it's okay now. They're larger.
No. Are you using your mobile, Doctor?
Yes,
Yeah. You
maybe
should,
that's why.
yeah, you could have used a laptop. That would have been better, I think.
Okay, now I'm using my mobile phone, and okay, I'd like to start, inshallah. So as I said, I'd like to thank the gentlemen for their fruitful presentations, and I'd like to give special thanks to my friend Dr. Omar for the professional use of English and Arabic, mashallah. It was very successful and very expressive. In fact, our participation is going to be about technical communication skills. So just to differentiate it from communication skills, so it is in fact communication skills, but the difference is that it is technical, which means engineering oriented in our case here. So in fact, usually the people who belong to a certain job, to a certain profession, they use special kind of language, special terminology, and we call them a speech community. If you happen to be next to a group of doctors, I mean doctors of medicine, discussing a certain case or a certain issue, you may not understand anything. Why? Because they are using certain terminology that is special for them, for their group, for their profession, and this is very natural. And the same applies to engineers, maybe lawyers, mechanics, even pharmacists or whatever. So the same is for engineers. They are going to use, inshallah, when they go to their careers, when they go to the labor market, they are going to be face to face with maybe engineers from different nationalities, and this technical communication skills is going to be their passport to join these groups and to prove that they are not less, inshallah, than others, and they can be strong opponents, and they can embrace others, and they can give a very, let's say, reputation, a very good reputation about their university and themselves as engineers. What I'd like to say is that being an undergraduate, when you make a mistake, God forbid, that it may end, the worst mistake may end with losing marks, maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 marks maximum. But when you go to the market, when you go to the labor market, to the real life situations, a mistake may cost you millions. So this is my advice to my sons or brothers, the engineers, the promising engineers. just to keep in mind that whether in writing or in speaking, they have to be very careful, especially if they are signing very important documents or preparing very important contracts. They have to be very careful about this and pay attention to every detail. In fact, the second slide is going to be about the technical communication, what technical communication means. In fact, the three media that engineers and maybe many others use in communication will be oral, written, and visual. So talking about oral communication, students may give presentations. Your boss may ask you to go and give a certain demonstration about a new product. Of course, you shouldn't say no. You shouldn't say I can't. You shouldn't say I don't know. If you say I don't know, this means you are closing all doors for progress, and you will give a bad impression about yourself and your university. So you should say I will try. You should be ready to do this. You should, because you have already learned a lot of examples of giving presentations and demonstrations and explaining things. The same is for the written communication. Also, you were trained for writing technical reports, research reports, maybe specifications, maybe manuals, maybe catalogs. So there are many functions that engineers do through writing as well as through oral. The same is with visual. Also, you may prepare certain diagrams or certain charts or pictures or illustrations to explain things. So it might be oral, written, or visual. Why is technical communication important for engineers? Yes, because engineers spend most of their time, in fact, and it is here to quote somebody. He said that 90 to 95% of their time they are engaging in technical communication skills, either researching, writing, or reading reports, proposals, emails, letters, memos, giving or attending presentations, discussing and meeting colleagues, team members, managers, clients, etc. So again, what are the documents? What are the writing functions that engineers can do when they go to the real life, to the market, when they join their careers? So one of the written documents is the proposals. So you may write, you may prepare a proposal. Or if you are in a managerial position, you may ask somebody to prepare a proposal. You may write a research report. You may write certain specifications for a new product in your company. I mean, the company where you are working for. You may write a user guide, which is a step-by-step instructions, procedures, manuals. You may be asked to give online help or technical support to somebody. You may give informations, regulations, and maybe safety issues about certain things, or you may write a brochure or promotional literature for using certain item. So all these are considered writing functions that engineers really need when they go to the market, when they join their career. So unless you have a good command of doing this and preparing these documents, you will be in a difficult position. You will be cornered, and la samahallah, you will give a bad reputation about your university and about yourself. So that's why I am giving much emphasis on these writing functions and speaking functions. Okay, so what are the skills needed for a technical communicator? Now, to call somebody a technical communicator, I mean having a good command on technical communication skills. What should he have? What are the qualities? What are the traits? What are the characteristics that he should be able to master professionally? First, the writing skill. How to write a certain text that is understandable. How to know your audience very well. It is not a matter of showing how professional you are in writing. If you write something that is very complicated and very difficult to understand, and you know very well that your audience are not very much knowledgeable about this, so who is the loser? You are going to be the loser as an engineer, and your company is going to lose as well. So it is very important to know your audience. I mean, the people you are writing for. So it is worth that you do a sort of needs analysis for the audience you are going to address and see what kind of language is appropriate for them. Okay, gentlemen, I suppose you are following.
Yes.
Okay. The second trait, so that you are called a technical communicator, is the subject matter. So if you are a professional writer or a professional presenter, and you don't know what to present, or you don't know what to write about, so what is the use? Like a presenter who is coming in front of a big audience and he has nothing to say. Will he give a good presentation? Sure, the answer is no, because he has no idea about the subject matter. What is the content he is going to present? And I guess that this is guaranteed from the two presentations that were given just now from your appreciated doctors. We can discover easily how much knowledgeable they are and how much professional they are in presenting the subject matter, each according to his own field. Next, the oral skills. What kind of oral skills are needed when you go to the market? What might be the oral skills that you may be asked to perform? You may be asked to promote a product or service. So again, your boss may ask you to go and promote a certain item. Do you say, I don't know? Of course, you shouldn't say this. You should say, I'm ready, and I am a graduate of KAU, and I can do it professionally. Another function, you may be asked to interview certain people. And here there's an abbreviation here, SMES, which is subject matter experts. So you may need to do a certain research for your company, and you may be asked to collect information. So one of the oral functions that you are going to perform is interviewing people, and not any people, subject matter expert. So you have to be very professional and very diplomatic and mastering all technical communication skills in order to get your job successfully. Then the last oral function is giving presentations. And I can claim that either in IE 200 or 201 or even 202, you are exposed to many chances for giving presentations. And I can also claim that our students are very well ready for giving presentations, but this doesn't mean that they are going to stick to this. They should continue learning and seeing different types of presentations. So because really learning is always continuous and it never stops. The same is with software tools. You should always update yourself with the most up-to-date knowledge about technology all over the world. Now you see how fast is technology. Every day there is something new. Every day there is a new generation of mobile phones. So unless you keep yourself updated with everything new, you will feel that you are lagging behind and you are lost and you cannot cope with technology. So the good engineer is the one who is always following everything new about technology. The next trait for the technical communicator is problem-solving skill. When your company produces a certain item, you should put yourself in the place of the user, of the customer, of the one who is going to use this product, and think the same way he thinks and imagine what kind of problems he may face, and accordingly provide the solutions, provide the piece of advice that he needs. This won't happen if you are not good at problem-solving technique. The same is with self-learning. Again, however, the doctors are professional and great at KAU, there is no doubt, but this doesn't mean that you are going to stick to what you learned at the university. You see, self-learning, your doctors, they gave you the tools, the keys for knowledge, for technology, for everything new. So you have the keys. You are ready to go and browse all internets and all websites and all sources of knowledge, and you should never stop learning. You see, the day when you decide that I'm going to stop learning, this means, for me, this means that you are going to die, God forbid. So it is not real death, I mean it is information death. Personality traits. What are the personality traits that an engineer should have in order to be called technical communicator? First, curiosity. An engineer has to be curious. I mean, looking for everything new. You cannot say this is not my business. Anything that is related to your field of study, if you are an electrical engineer or a nuclear engineer or whatever kind of engineer, you should keep on updating yourself with everything new about your field. If there is a brochure, if there is a book, if there is a leaflet, if there is anything published related to your field, you should be the first one to know about this, so that if there is a meeting, you will never keep silent. You will not be only a good listener. You should participate and give your opinion and give the impression that you are knowledgeable about this and you know anything in advance. So this gives a good impression about you. A second trait for a technical communicator is the ability to work on several tasks or projects. So when you go to a company, let me call you my sons, because my son is in your age and he's going to finish, inshallah, by the end of this semester. So the same pieces of advice I usually give him, I'm going to convey this to you, because you are the same for me, that if you are asked to do more than one job, maybe your boss will say, okay, Ahmed or Omar or whatever, would you please do this job in addition to your load? So you shouldn't say no. You should say, I will try. You should say a call, because multitasking is part of your job. Sometimes I don't mean that you are going to spend all your life working for 24 hours, because they might be, you know, slave drivers in the company, God forbid. I'm sure that you're going to join, inshallah, good companies where they appreciate you. But if you are exposed to this demand, you should be flexible enough to accept and to do the job and to give a good impression about yourself. Ability to cope with procrastination. And what does mean procrastination? This reminds me of one of the students doing a research about procrastination, which means delaying certain things without affecting your performance and your reputation. So if you have a group of tasks you are going to do, it is a skill, it is an art to decide which task can be postponed, which task can be delayed, and which task should be done on the spot. This is an art, by the way, without being affected, without giving a bad reputation that you are always delaying and you are always postponing. No, so this is an art, and you can schedule the task and do all of them without being affected. The last trait for a technical communicator is the ability to stay calm. So even if you are annoyed, if you are vexed, if you are cornered in the company where you are working, you have to stay calm. You have to be flexible enough. You have to be diplomatic enough. You have to go out of the situation without losing your position, without losing the friends around you, keeping your position and keeping your self-confidence. And I hope, gentlemen, that you are going to join the labor market successfully, and you are going to give a good impression about KAU. And we are always proud of you, gentlemen. So we hope you all good luck. And with this, I finish my presentation. These are the references here down for those who want more about these things. And we are always ready to answer any question and to give any advice for you, whether you are undergraduates or postgraduates, wherever you are. Thanks a lot for listening, gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, Doctor, thank you. Welcome.
Anytime. And I'm ready, as I said. If there are any questions, as you said, it might be done in the end of the whole thing.
Okay, Doctor. Okay. Thank you about this presentation, Doctor, and thank you for your effort. يعني. والآن ننتقل إلى موضوع ethics in engineering مع الدكتور عبدالعزيز تيفوتي. فليتفضل مشكورا. تسمعني دكتور عبدالعزيز؟
أسمعك جيدا وجزاك الله خيرا. Okay.
جزاك الله
كل خير.
كل خير. نعم.
Okay, so I can share my slides, my presentation if possible. Can you allow me?
Yes, Doctor.
You need to stop. The other participant has to stop sharing first. Let me just see if I can share now. It says you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. So
okay, now I stopped sharing, right?
You stopped? Now I can. Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Just a minute. Make sure my thing is right. Okay, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you something really serious. Before that, I'd like to thank my colleagues and the doctors who talked before me. Very informative. But actually, they took my time. They haven't left me with a lot of time. So I'll try to be short and concise as much as I can. And if you allow me, I'd like to start today with a little poetry, if you don't mind, and it's going to be in Arabic. Let me see if I can get this running. والعلم إن لم تكتنفه شمائل تعليه كان مطية الإخفاق. لا تحسبن العلم ينفع وحده ما لم يتوج ربه بخلاق. These are, two verses from one of the famous poets. He's called the Nile poet, or Sha'ar al-Nil. His name is Hafid Ibrahim. And I would like to ask you about the two key words in these two verses. So if you look carefully, you'll see that the first word and the last word are the two most important ones. Let me use the annotate so that you can see. The first one, which is al-ilm is a key word. The second one is khalaq. The last word is also a key word. So you can tell now what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the ilm, which is today, which is engineering, and khalaq, which is akhlaq. And what we're going to see is, if we don't have these two together, ilm and khalaq, what you will get? You will get ikhfaq, right? So this is the focus, gentlemen. We need to marry knowledge and ilm and engineering with akhlaq, with the other word, which is shama'il, if you want to avoid ikhfaq. So in this short talk, I will talk about, I don't know why my PowerPoint is not running. Why is it not running? Just a minute.
Can hear you very well, Dr. Tifuti.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
But my PowerPoint is not running.
I don't know, but you are very clear.
Thank you. Yeah. Right. So today my talk is going to be about ethics in engineering, how we can join the two, engineering and ethics, if we want to be successful and if we want to avoid all the ikhfaq, all the failures. So this is my agenda for today's talk. I'll first talk about the Saudi Code of Ethics. I'll mention 6 general rules. Then I'll talk about some important terms to do with responsibility and obligation, which are the conflict of interest and whistleblowing. I will, I'll make you familiar with these 2 terms. Then the third one will be, I'll talk about the major ethical failures, or al-ikhfaqat, as we mentioned in the poem. I'll talk about 4 cases if I have time. And then we'll see what lessons we can learn from these failures, which we call the key takeaways. All right. So in our course in IE 200, which is perhaps the first course that students take before they get into their majors and specialties, they take this soft course with us, which, as Professor Muhammad Salam mentioned, is technical communication skills, but we include in this course things like ethics, critical thinking, and inshallah very soon we'll inject creative thinking as well. So this rules, 6 rules, actually on the screen you will see the first 2 are part of the rules we teach to our students and make them familiar with this rule so that they can they can do their jobs properly. So the first rule is that you, as an engineer, you should build your professional reputation on the merit of the services that you provide, okay? And not, as we'll see very clearly, not on unfair competition. And we'll see that a lot of unethical practices happen when there is unfair competition. And we will try to look for something better than competition, right? The second rule is that the engineer should continue their professional development throughout their careers. It means there is no stop to your development. You are expected to continue developing yourself, learning new things, new skills, so that you can contribute better to the profession that you're in. The third rule is that engineers should uphold and enhance the honor, integrity, and dignity of the engineering profession. It means this profession you're in, you have to present it, you have to display it and to showcase it to people in the best manner possible. And you should also do your duties okay, according to these values, both to the local community, to where you are, like for example, you're in Saudi Arabia or worldwide. So this is rule number 3. Number 4, you should act in professional matters as faithful agents or trustees for their employers, clients, and shall avoid conflicts of interest. So you're here working for your employer. It could be a company, it could be an institution, whatever. You should be faithful to your employer and also to the clients. It means the people that your company deals with. And we will look at this term, conflict of interest. This is a key term in ethics, which we want you to know, to learn, and also know how to deal with it. So that's rule 4. Number 5, engineers shall be objective, trustful in presenting their judgments, statements, or testimony, which shall be restricted to their areas of competence and professional specialty. So it's all about being objective, honest when you give a judgment and a statement, and also try to stay where you are in your professional area. Yeah, don't get into other people's areas where you're not competent enough, right? So that's an ethical rule that you must follow as well. Rule number 6, engineers should hold paramount the principles of safety and environmental protection when fulfilling their professional duties with an ultimate goal of maintaining individual and public interests. And for me, rule 6 is the key rule, yeah? Because it talks about safety. Your job as an engineer is, of course, to contribute in producing new products, new systems, new facilities to everybody around you. But the first thing you need to consider is the safety of people. You make sure that whatever you produce protects people and maintains their health, their safety, and it doesn't cause injury or harm or perhaps death to people. So that's the main thing. And also, as I said, your job is to work towards helping the general public, everybody, you know, and make sure that what you produce is safe and effective and useful. So these are the 6 rules that if you're studying IE 200 course with us, you'll find in the beginning of the unit 3, which is ethics, that we teach to our students. Right. As I said, I'm going to talk to you about 2 key words or key terms in ethics, which show the level of responsibility and obligation you have as an engineer. The first one, of course, is conflict of interest. As an engineer, you'll be working in a company which has a lot of transactions, a lot of dealings, and so on. But sometimes you find yourself pulled by 2 forces. Yeah, there's your interest, your self-interest on one side, and there's the interest of, say, the company or the clients that you're supposed to work towards, right? And as humans, we have that, yeah. But looking at it from an ethical point of view, you should be careful about this conflict of interest. Your job as an engineer is to serve your company and the clients first, and not your personal interest. For example, we ask this in our course. We say, let's say, for example, you're the HR or the employer, would you employ somebody based on kinship or based on relationship, if you like? Is your family member, is somebody is a close friend and so on, or based on competence? Okay. So here is a conflict here, and your job is to serve the company. And of course, you have to look at competence before you look at the relationship you have with the person. So that's what we call conflict of interest, and you need to be familiar with this term. The second term is what we call whistleblowing. Now, whistleblowing happens when you, as an engineer, you notice that there is something that is going to happen in your company or where you work, and this is going to harm people. It's going to be, it's quite dangerous and risky to do. Now, your job first is to try to stop this, or to correct it by communicating with your immediate the people with you, your immediate boss. Even use some colleagues here and there. It means you have to try to solve the problem internally. Do your best to stop this harm or this threat. Let's say, for example, your company is going to produce something that is not safe, or that is not efficient, that's going to cause harm to people. You see that as an engineer. You warn your management and the people around you. But the thing is, sometimes the management don't listen to you. They say, okay, thank you very much, but we're going to go ahead with our plans, right? Why? Because usually what happens is, because of competition, because of profits, because of trying to save time, trying to save money and materials and effort, they decide, the management decide to go ahead with the project. Now, your job as an engineer, does it mean you're going to keep silent and do nothing and wait until hundreds of people get harmed? Whistleblowing means that in this situation, after you have consumed all your efforts, all the other ways to stop this from happening, is to try to seek external help. You have to, let other people, even outside the company, know about this. And you should do this when you feel that this will help stop the problem. Your job is not really to harm the company, but your job, as we said, because you're responsible to the community, is to protect the community. This is called whistleblowing. So sometimes you can be in this situation, you become a whistleblower yourself by informing about any threats and harms. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the ikhfaqat because of ethical issues and failures. And there are some very famous incidents and cases that we need to study. And actually, in our course, we do expose students to some of them, like this, the first one, which is the Fort Pinto case. Yeah. Why we do this? Because we learn a lot from these cases, and there are a lot of takeaways from them. So in 1970, this company, the Ford company, they wanted to promote their new automobile, the Ford Pinto, but they wanted to do this in a very short time with very little cost. Yeah, and this is what we call in English and in ethics, cutting corners. When you cut corners, it means you try to save time and effort. Now, the boss of this company, I think his name was Lee, he said, I want, and he talked to his engineers and everybody. He said, I want this car to see life, I think, in a very short time. Usually a new car, when you redesign a car, it takes something like 43 weeks at least, but he wanted to do that in about 25 weeks. So at almost half time. And also he put some other limitations, which is to do with the weight of the car. He said it shouldn't be more than 2,000 pounds, and also it shouldn't cost more than 2,000 pounds as well, so that people can easily buy it, and he can and here the thing behind all of this is competition, because the American Ford was competing with the Japanese cars, which more and more people were heading towards. So this gives us an idea how some problems happen. And what happened is, because they wanted to cut corners, because they wanted to save time and so on, the people who bought this car or this type of cars, many of them ended up being burnt. And actually this car was kind of an explosive car. It's as if you're buying a bomb that's going to explode, and not a car that's going to, you know, that you can enjoy and you drive safely. Why? Because the fuel tank, there was a problem with the fuel tank, you know, that would explode very quickly, you know, at a very, you know, at a little touch, and it explodes. So this is the first case, because of cutting corners. The second case, which is not actually as big as the first one, this is called the Bay Area Rapid Transport Project. That was in 1972. Actually, it's a train project. And what happened is that 3 engineers in the company noticed that the system that they're developing is kind of faulty, and it could cause problems to the trains, and they could, you know, they could derail, and they could cause accidents and so on. And they warned the immediate management, okay, but the management wouldn't listen to them, to these 3 engineers, and they went on with the project. And what happened is, actually they even fired this 3 engineers because they were against the project. And this is an example, as we mentioned, about whistleblowing. These 3 engineers didn't stay silent, and they went and discussed, and informed some external parties, yeah, about the possibility of the project going wrong. And it did happen. There was a big accident, and so many people got injured. But fortunately, these people got compensated at the end. They lost their jobs and their careers anyway, but they were compensated for that, because they warned the management. Third case, which is a very, very famous and popular case. This is in 1986, which is the Space Shuttle Challenger, which we all know about. And this was, one of the, fatal accidents where all the 7 astronauts, perished. And the reason why is also something where the engineers actually were involved, and they warned the decision makers, the management, that if they launch the shuttle in those weather conditions, because it was like freezing weather conditions, and they had what we call the O-rings. The O-rings are kind of joints made of plastic, right? And they are elastic. But when it is too cold, when it's freezing, they become like stiff, and too solid, that they would allow some leakage of the pressurized gas or fuel, and there was and when the management decided, after some delays a little, they decided to launch the shuttle, and we know what happened. A few seconds after that, it exploded, and everybody died, and they lost more than $1.2 billion just for this case. And again, from an ethical point of view, is sometimes we make decisions, okay? Why? Because we don't want to waste time. Sometimes there are some political issues in there, and what happened here is, in this situation, is actually the engineers who were against the launching were asked to prove that that it's going to be dangerous. So it was the other way around. But anyhow, that's a third case which we can learn from it. The fourth case, which we also teach in our course, which is called the Boeing 737 MAX 8. And this is also the result of competition between Boeing and Airbus. Yeah, Boeing is the American company, aircraft company, and Airbus, the European. So there's always this competition: who would win the market, and who would, make more money and have more monopoly of the business. So I don't want to go into too much details about this, but the Boeing, because of competing with Airbus, they introduced a new engine that helps with fuel, that would have less fuel consumption, and that means that more and more people would buy the Boeing. And actually, if you can see here, the competition, this chart shows that, for example, in 2011, you can see that how Airbus was monopolizing the market and overtaking Boeing. Okay, and because Boeing produced this new system, or they created this new aircraft, which is actually, it's not new. It's just that they changed the engine, and they said, this is our new product. You see, so they regained in 2000, just in 1 year, they regained position. And it's a famous story. This one, what they did is, for the engine that they introduced, okay, now because of the height of the wings, the engine was because it was big, actually, compared to the Airbus, which had enough space in the structure of the airplane to add the big engine. Boeing didn't have that. So when the airplane was in action, what happens is the airplane keeps nosing. The airplane keeps going up, actually, raising its head up, right? So what they did is they just introduced a new system, which is called the MCAS, yeah, the maneuvering, the automotive. I don't remember exactly what that means, but that system, actually, what it does is it keeps pushing the plane down, to nose down, yeah, as if it's telling it, keep your head down, don't go up. So there is a sensor that keeps doing. So what they did is they didn't want to redesign the whole plane, okay, because it costs a lot and it's a lot of money and time and so on. All they did is make a little adjustments here, there, and there, and just added a new software, which is the one that I mentioned, the MCAS. And although many American pilots complained about that, they said, okay, we feel that the aircraft keeps going up, being nosing down, but they didn't listen to them. And what happened is there were two fatal accidents in 2018 and 2019, one in Ethiopia and the other one in Indonesia, and more than 300 people died in these two accidents. Now, very quickly, because we're running short of time, these are just a few takeaways that we can get from what we've talked about. So as you can see, it's all about making sure that everything is safe, and that engineers work for the welfare of everybody, of the public. and they should stay and work in their areas of competence, and you can continue looking at the other takeaway that I want to focus on is competition versus collaboration. So we would like to stop thinking in terms of just competing with the others, especially when it is unfair competition. As we can see, most of the problems, because there is competition, it's unfair competition, and we just want to win the market to save money and time and to defeat our competitors. Rather, we should think more in terms of collaboration, working with the other, thinking of the other, making sure that the other also succeeds as we do. That's more ethical, and that's safer for everybody than just competing. I would like to finish very quickly with the same way I started, with another poem by another poet. This time is the famous Ahmed Shawqi, when he said, وَإِنَّمَا الْأُمَمُ الْأَخْلَاقُ مَا بَقِيَتْ فَإِنْ هُمُ ذَهَبَتْ أَخْلَاقُهُمْ ذَهَبُوا. So ethics is everything, gentlemen. Without ethics, we will have all these failures, but the biggest failure is not just an aircraft that's gonna explode or a bridge that's gonna fall or whatever. It could mean much more than that. It could mean that the whole nation would perish and would disappear, and all humanity would be affected by lack of ethics. This is what I want to finish with. Thank you very much, and inshallah we will have other meetings with everybody and share whatever we have. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا يا دكتور عبدالعزيز على هذا البرزنتيشن المتميز منك. شكرا صراحة على هذه الجهود المبذولة منك وعلى هذا الوقت المعطى، وشكرا كمان لبقية الدكاترة على جهودهم العظيمة وعلى عطائهم وعلى فعلهم وعلى هذه المبادرة الطيبة منهم. وكمان حاب إنه أنا تفضل دكتور.
بالعكس، نحن نشكركم على هذه الدعوة وعلى هذا النشاط اللي تقوموا به للجميع، ونسأل الله أن يكون قد وجد الحاضرون، وإن شاء الله اللي حيشوفوا الليكتشرز حيكون فيها فائدة بإذن الله. Right? Sorry, the talk was in English, but لكن نحن نفتخر باللغة العربية وهي لغتنا. But since engineering is in English, we have to do it in English. Okay. Barakallahu feek. And inshallah, if there are any other occasions, we can contribute, because actually I was expecting to give something about critical thinking and creative thinking. So if there is an opportunity to do this, because that's something we also teach, in addition to technical communication and ethics, we also teach critical thinking, and we're introducing creative thinking. So if there's an opportunity, we can contribute something useful, inshallah, to our students and to everybody with us in terms of these two types of thinking, inshallah. All the best, and see you next time, inshallah.
Inshallah. We will see, inshallah, Doctor. Thank you. جزاك الله خير. وحاب كمان إنه أنا أشكر أخواني الطلاب اللي حضروا هذه المحاضرة، ونتمنى إنه هي كانت مفيدة، أنهم حققوا الإفادة والاستفادة المطلوبة. نسأل الله العلي العظيم إنه الله يوفقهم إن شاء الله في سوق العمل، وإن شاء الله إنه نشوفهم بإذن الله ونقابلهم قريبا جدا في سوق العمل جميعا. فنسأل الله العلي العظيم التوفيق للجميع، وشكرا.